soon as our technology, I mean, like instantaneously, as soon as our technology comes into the room, it's neutralizing all those EMFs on our harmful effects it has on our body. So what we saw was a 77.6% decrease in gamma. We saw an 82.9% decrease in beta. And then we saw a 1,300% increase in alpha. So this is all like while you're still on the phone, and now all your brainwave lakes went back to ideal.
What if aging isn't about slowing down, but leveling up? I'm Dr. Isaac Jones. This is the Longevity Leaders Podcast. Welcome to the Longevity Leaders Podcast. I'm so excited for today's conversation and interview. Todd Shipman is a wellness enthusiast. He's somebody that's friends with a lot of my friends, and we just so happen to connect. We didn't know each other until recently, but he's an entrepreneur. He's an advocate for cutting edge quantum technology that really enhances health and well-being. He's got a background in anti-aging and physical performance and water revitalization, as well as holistic living. And he's really passionate about really how can people unlock their optimal potential? How can they access human flourishing or high performance? And he really wants to be able to do that through these breakthroughs and innovations in quantum technology with nature inspired solutions, which I think really aligns with my philosophy as well. But Todd's journey has brought him to the forefront of really cool, innovative products like the Lila quantum technology that I've got around my neck right now. You probably see a lot of leaders and influencers. I was in Dubai, a few weeks ago, and people are wearing this Lila quantum tech, which is, I thought, really cool. But it's a really it's a company revolutionizing energy healing through quantum charge technologies and tools, and it helps to neutralize EMF. And a lot of the wearable quantum devices that you can put inside of your home is what he has pioneered. And so Todd is dedicated to sharing the transformative power of quantum healing and quantum energy to the world. And Todd, I'm really excited to get in all the details today with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love these types of conversations. They're true enthusiasm for me is to kind of connect and be the bridge between, like we're saying, all these really cool things that are available to us and the people who are looking for these things. And whether it's really high tech, expensive stuff, but at the end of the day, like the actual like nature is perfect, and we can get so many things just naturally. So that's why I like bringing up all the options here.
100%, 100%. And I always love to just start diving into like value, and I like to get into the mind of the person listening and answer questions as quickly as we can. So like I remember when I was a student, I watched What the Bleep Do I Know after meeting Joe Dispenza, and he was like, "Yeah, I got hit by a transport truck and I was paralyzed, and I had my nerves ripped apart and my back broken." And he's like, and then they said the only way that I would live is in a wheelchair, and that I would be a paraplegic for my whole life. And so I was like, man, that's terrible. I'm like, well, you're walking right now, and I was a student ambassador for Life University. So I was driving him around, and and I'm like, well, how are you able to walk right now? And he was like, I would close my eyes for months on end, and I'd just visualize healing. I would get an anatomy textbook out, and I'd visualize healing and all this stuff. He's like, you should watch this movie. What the bleep do we know? And so it kind of introduced me to the world of quantum healing and mind body healing. But then that there's really interesting technologies and solutions that are seemingly more advanced in Europe than they are in America. Although I know there's people in America that are doing some really cool things with that as well. But you're just seeing really amazing healing technologies that are on a quantum level, which is a real level. It is so, but why don't we start off with just, what is quantum energy? What is quantum healing? Is this fluff? And I'm sure there is fluff to it, but like, that some people are pushing. But what's your perspective on it?
Yeah, well, the quantum in general, we've used that word quite a bit already. And I think initially people kind of get like this sour taste in their mouth that it's like woo woo scamish because there's a lot of unethical marketing out there. And I see it and I see where, there's these quantum patch or quantum this, and they're not really using the terms and relevance to what we're talking about. And I actually got into this field to debunk it. So 10 years ago, I was like, this quantum stuff is a scam. And I got into it to debunk it. And here I am on the other side,
Like,
So, yeah. And so, what is quantum energy? Like, quantum energy really is the energy behind the matter, like at a subatomic level, which can also not create a lot of clarity for people when they're trying to figure out what is that. It's like what creates the vibration in every cell. And I'm kind of a visual learner. So the best way I can say to visualize this is if we have a piece of paper and let's say we have like a number two pencil from the old school days, and you start writing on that paper, think of it as that like space in between where the actual lead and the paper hit, like that little space in between, like underneath of the lead, that would be kind of like what the quantum energy part is. And quantum energy is not negative, it's not positive, and that's actually kind of where a lot of these benefits are found is because it's neutral, which
mm,
also means it's neutralizing. And that is kind of the key aspect of where we're finding all of these benefits, which is always new to us. We're still finding all these new things of what is like harmonizing and neutralizing our environment and how do we benefit from that. And, where we see most people become intrigued and interested in the benefits is with the harmonization or the neutralization that harmful effects that EMFs have on our body. And that's not like the number one key thing in what we're
mm,
doing, but I think that is the number one thing that draws people to us because more people, I hate to use the word waking up because it's not like you're waking, but like people are coming aware and understanding that there are actual like measurements that we can quantify of negative EMF exposure. So, like, what happens when we're around EMFs? Well, we can show this now. We can quantify our body level on a double blind, placebo controlled studies showing here's what happens when you're constantly having like EMFs around you, right? And then once you kind of see, like, okay, there is some things, even if we're not feeling it, we can show that our HRV, so our heart rate variability, drops significantly.
hmm
For people who maybe don't know what HRV is, I bet one of the best things you can relate to it maybe is if you have an aura ring and when you look at your readiness score, like that's
Yep.
the aura ring is kind of going off of what your HRV is. If it's low,
Yep.
hey, you're not, you should be taking the day easy or whatever. That's your HRV is low. We can show it through brain wavelengths, showing that when you're around EMFs, that your gamma and your beta wavelengths are significantly increased. Beta and gamma are the not ideal ones. That's what causes anxiety, stress, negative thoughts, kind of like just, not depression stuff, but just things you don't really want going on is usually is when your gamma and beta are there. And we can show the EMS exposure. So cell towers, cell phone, Wi-Fi routers, Bluetooth, all that are instigating this. We can
Yes.
show like through live blood analysis, dark through microscopy, we can show that what happens to your blood instantly once it's exposed to EMFs, it makes it look just like would it be like instant inflammation in the blood cells.
It's
So
like
there's a lot.
it ends up creating like an energetic shift in the blood that ends up causing rouleau, which is where the red
Mhm.
blood cells start to like
The money bags, call
stack
'em,
on top
like,
of each other. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
we
kind of
just call them like
crazy.
money bags.
Yeah. Right, right.
Yeah,
Money.
so there's a lot of things that we can show. We can show like your calcium channels go out of control and overproduce. So there's a lot of things. Again, beforehand, this was all kind of woo woo. It's just it's in your head. EMFs you don't really can because there's so many people aren't affected physically, like in terms of their awareness. But we can
Mm,
still show, regardless, that this is what's happening to your body, whether you feel it or not your HRV is dropping. Your blood gets a little thicker, stickier.
wow.
And so that's kind of where I think, again, that's where most people will at least be drawn into quantum energy. There's so many, we have 65 double blind placebo controlled studies with our technology. And most all that's coming from the quantum energy. Also, our products are infused with frequencies that enhance and make things better. But mostly, I think what we want to really keep on is just the quantum energy and the cool stuff that we see because again we have so many studies all double blind placebo controlled for the majority all of them and what's coming out of it is really cool because it's not why these products were even created. We were just like, well, we can see this harmonization in your environment So what does that really include? And that's what we're seeing with the lifestyle of people showing like, oh yeah, it's putting you back into parasympathetic because you don't have these invisible external environmental stressors attacking you.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
seeing like just so many things that we can go into. I don't want to overload everyone right now, but we have so much data.
Pause there, because I mean, I have these stetserizer units that go into the plugs of the wall that decrease the level of Gauss electrical pollution out of the wall. And I did this years ago before I had kids. I went around this house that I built, and it was like all this electrical pollution just from the outlets were like
Yeah.
circulating throughout the house. And what's non-carcinogenic is anything I think under 70 or 50 Gauss. And then what is carcinogenic is anything above it. So like, the person that taught me this had a daughter who died of cancer, but when he tested the outlet next to her baby crib, it was at like a thousand or something like that. And I'm not even kidding you. My wife hasn't been educated on it like I have. So she'll be like, "Oh, what's this? I'll just take it out, put it in the drawer. I need to plug stuff in." And then I'll be like, "Hey, babe, like, where did that go? We need that in the outlet." So long story short is I'm going through the house. My son's getting difficult sleep. I notice nothing's plugged in the walls. So I go and I test his room. It's at 1500 in both outlets on either side of the bed.
Yeah.
So like let's really quickly talk about electrical pollution from outlets from Bluetooth. Like I have no Wi-Fi. I'm directly connected in right here, but I have a Bluetooth mouse. I don't know how to get out. You can't buy a non-Bluetooth mouse for an Apple,
You really
So like
can't, huh?
what do you talk a little bit about that? I know that there's stuff coming out from the government showing that it's carcinogenic. It's extremely damaging to the nervous system, but let's just quickly double click into this. Healthcare is changing, and many clinicians are looking for ways to deliver more personalized, forward thinking care while building practices that can adapt and grow with that change. Disrupt Clinical 2026 brings together practitioners who want to combine emerging longevity science with practical models for how medicine can be delivered sustainably, effectively, and with greater professional autonomy. Join us April 10th through 12th, 2026 in Hollywood, Florida for 3 immersive days focused on integrating advanced diagnostics, preventative and regenerative strategies, and care frameworks around longevity and prevention and cause-based medicine designed for where healthcare is leading next. Alongside clinical insights, we'll explore operational systems and practice approaches that support better outcomes for patients while creating a more resilient, future-ready practice. You'll hear directly from clinicians already applying these models and helping shape the next phases of healthcare delivery, who are generating 7, 8, and even 9 figures in revenue. If you're ready to expand what's possible in your work and participate in the evolution of modern medicine, Disrupt Clinical 2026 is where that conversation becomes action. We're going to sell out of the event very soon. So go ahead and click the link to learn more and reserve your seat.
Well, yeah, and where I lived in one of the areas where I used to live for a long time is um it's in Marin County, so just north of San Francisco, right? And we're as far as I'm aware, still this day, it's the only town in the world that banned smart meters. So, like we have PG&E here that puts out
Wow.
these smart device, and it's like we're the only town to successfully ban it because the FTC trade agreement makes it so that you cannot ban communication technology off the base of health concerns. And then Marin is also one of the main areas that banned 5G towers. So it's spreading out where people are at least becoming more aware of the dangers. And Marin County is just an area where there's a lot of money. So they were able to have smart lawyers to work around that with like property tax devaluation and aesthetics for the town. And that's how they got rid of them. But it's
Wow.
really cool to see now, like, the extent of that. We also have companies like Synergy 360, which this gentleman, his name is Brian Johnson, all he does is build EMF free homes, and they can wire them. They do circadian friendly lighting, VOC, everything in the
Mm.
house is completely VOC free. So when he builds these homes, he's aware of like, all the outlets having everything to go. And I'm just bringing this up because it's really cool to see where we are now. This is all just in the last, like, let's just say 8 years, right? That this stuff is becoming more aware and more general. So,
I love Brian. He's been a part of a mastermind of mine um that I was a part of called Da Vinci.
okay. So, Brian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Does
but but
Vinci Fish? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
really cool. Really cool what's happening
Yeah.
with.
And what he's been doing recently last year into an education where I think people are living in these homes, especially the newer homes, because they're smart homes and the Bluetooth is everywhere. There's Wi-Fi. And even if you're not connected to these items, it's actually almost worse because
Yeah.
they're putting out more EMFs because they're searching for things. That's why I always tell people the worst time to be on an airplane is when you land because everyone turns their phones on and then everything is instantly searching really heavy and they're outputting more EMFs.
Right.
So it's just interesting to see the newer homes compared to like maybe older homes they're not putting off as much EMFs, but it's still a concern, right? And one thing about the quantum energy though is so the founder of Lila Quantum, he was the global vice president for T-Mobile. And I think that's
Wow.
important because he was on one side of the pendulum and now he's kind of on the other. And it's kind of like how you're saying things are hardwired. In a perfect world, yes, I would have everything in my house hardwired, nothing Wi-Fi if I could. But I think that's not so much feasible for the general public. And you have to some of these people, you have to build the homes that like Brian, he builds the homes with the wiring put in and everything as they're being built or rebuilds them. And so where I'm at, you and I could not have this conversation without the me using and utilizing the luxuries of technology of Bluetooth and of Wi-Fi and all that. And so it's kind of like, how do we work synergistically with it? So I can sit here with AirPods. I have my Apple Watch and my Wi-Fi. I have 5 computers here around me for all my other work that I do. And I have my Leela products all around. I can show if we had the
Yeah.
studies, we could show that there's no effects to my body that the EMFs have. I am in a completely harmonized technology room with all these things. That's a beautiful one too. That's one of our newer ones,
Yeah,
the
this one I
circular.
have literally right next to me. And I don't know if it's if it's too powerful, but
It can be, but if you get used to it, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but you can
you've got
definitely.
three three rings at the top, three rings at the bottom, and then I bring this one, um, this one ring at the top and one ring at the bottom with me in my bag.
Yeah, the travel block is great. Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm the only challenge is when kids unscrew the bottom of
Take
it.
them off. I keep one of those in my car, and the
I have one in my
vibration
car.
slowly unscrews it up. That
Yeah.
unscrews one of the things just over time. I'm always having to go back in and rescrew it in.
No, I
Yeah,
bought like everything and I bought like multiple of them.
yeah, they're all very useful. Having the travel block, whether it's like my wife will refuse to travel anywhere without the travel block. When we're driving, I have them in the car, and then in the house have larger ones. And that's just kind of like we're going back to like with all those plugins and the difficulty of that, and then the luxury of having any form of exposure to the quantum energy. It's neutralizing while you're still able to use those things. Again, and that's where I think it's working synergistically with all of these luxuries of the new technologies. And instead of having to Faraday cage or hardwire, which at the end of the day, great, right? But if you Faraday cage your phone, then you're not using it. And that's where the kind of like aha moment is like, yes, you can Faraday cage or put your phone or any electronics in there, but now you can't use them. And we're looking for ways to utilize, like I said, work synergistically while still having our cell phone. And we can show that. So like,
Or if you have like you Faraday cage your house, but then you have a grounding thing, it actually can be even worse if you've got a cell phone that you call from in a Faraday cage, goes down into the earth
now you're an
and
antenna.
radiates you even more, right?
Yep, now you're an actual living antenna.
Yeah, yeah. That's so crazy. All right, keep going.
Yeah, well, I mean, so let's go like into like where we can show the benefits, I guess, with like so
Yeah,
for example, the cool I went earlier I was talking about like the gamma and the beta wavelengths. And one of the most recent studies that we did with this is just like with the quantum energy exposure is we took someone, we put a cell phone right up to their brain for 30 minutes. And this was done in Austria. Kind of like you were saying like earlier that a lot of all the cool stuff is in Europe. And I think it's because in the United States, there's a lot of limiting factors, whether it's licensing fees and just
yeah,
the technologies. Because I worked with Andrew Hill and from the Peak Brain Institute, and then also Jim Hart from BioCybernaut, while we were trying to get the proper technology to do these studies, and neither of them were like, yeah, this just don't exist in the United States. Those are millions of dollars. So we found someone in Austria that had this 256 channel EEG. And again, so what we did is we put
Wow.
the newest, let's say the newest Apple phone right up to the ears. We left it there for 30 minutes and we got all the data. And then what we did is we immediately, this was all done like on the Dr. Drew show too, because he thought it was so fascinating. But we introduced our technology, and instantly what we saw, to preface what happened, right? We can show that the calcium channels, the blood, all that, but the brainwave lengths. So we saw that the beta and the gamma just skyrocketed, alpha plummets. As soon as our technology is like instantaneously, as soon as our technology comes into the room, it's neutralizing all those EMFs on our harmful effects it has on our body. So what we saw was a 77.6% decrease in gamma. We saw an 82.9% decrease in beta, and then we saw a 1,300% increase in alpha. So this is all like while you're still on the phone, and now all your brainwave lengths went back to ideal. Alpha is kind of, it's just like everything. You don't really want it like, you want it to be dynamic. You're not wanting to sit in this position the whole time.
Yeah.
But alpha is kind of the ideal, because alpha, you can be in more parasympathetic. You're out of a fight or flight. You can retain information better. It's kind of like the athletes when they're like, "Oh, I was in a flow state," right? So a pitcher, if they throw a no hitter, they're in a flow state.
Wow.
Well, the flow state is alpha, and so that's the goal. Is for a lot of performance aspects is to be in your flow state, alpha, and that's what we can show is happening. But again, it's not even so much that the quantum energy is increasing all of these. It's more just putting you back in your natural state, and there's no external stressors affecting you. So your body's working at its natural state. So we can show the same thing with, like, if we have you around EMFs, we can look at your ATP production. And if we do the same thing with the EMF still there, but introduce quantum energy, we see a 29% increase of ATP production. We can show
Wow.
a
Is
200%
that
increase in wound healing.
is that with it like right against your head or against the tissue while it's there, or could it be
Like
like,
3 or 4 feet away. Yeah. Yeah,
wow,
yeah. We're showing, like, real life
wow,
situations, like, where the Wi-Fi might be 5 or 10 feet away.
wow,
I think the first studies we ever did was, like, 15 feet away, but so, yeah, because it's even though it's silent and we're not noticing it, it is affecting us because it is a stressor, and our bodies are so resilient that it can do so much. And I think a lot of people, for example, it's like, if we're sitting around in a moldy house, uh, for the majority, our bodies, our mitochondria can create like a shin guard around us and like bubble wrap us. And even though there's always a sacrifice where we're losing energy, focus, and everything else, but it's
yeah,
still protecting us from the symptoms of that mold. Now, let's say we all of a sudden they install a 5G tower near our property. Now our mitochondria is trying to protect us from the mold, and then also, the 5G or the EMFs. And then let's say somehow you get bit by a tick, and now you have Lyme disease. You have all three things. And then that's usually when, like, the straw breaks the camel's back. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't know I had all these other issues, and all the symptoms come out because your mitochondria can't handle it. So what we're doing with this is kind of a bubble wrap around your own biofield of protection from any of these external stressors while they're still there, but you're able to operate like when they're not there. Like, as again, I don't. It's not that the quantum energy is actually creating the increase. It's just allowing your body to work at its natural state, which it can do. And where I was going at that kind of story is the wound healing, where we saw a 200% increase in wound healing while exposed to the quantum energy. Right. So, like I was saying, is the mitochondria is having to put its energy and focus on other things. But now it's like, hey, let's heal this wound. And that's all it's focusing on. It's not having to worry about the EMFs. It's not doing anything else because that's all being protected by the quantum energy. And now it can just focus specifically on wound healing, which happens twice as fast.
dude, that's amazing. Wow, that's
Yeah.
absolutely and you guys have done probably more research on this EMF technology than any other EMF technology out there, right?
By far. And I mean, I think that has to do with the enthusiasm of Philip, like trying to also, we're constantly trying to figure out what other like real life benefits people have because we didn't, this wasn't created with like, it's going to do this, and this for you. It was more of like, we're harmonizing your space. And then over the last like 6 years, we've come across like different experiences with people where they're like, "Hey, this is occurring," and then we're like, "Okay," and then we get 10 or 15 or people are like, "Hey, this is occurring and it's the same thing." So there must be something to it. So then we will pay for like a third party study or look more into it. And that's where the really
Yeah.
cool stuff happens. Like we see like a 90, I think it's a 96% increase in sperm production.
Wow.
But again, that's what's happening with EMFs. EMFs are suppressing all of that because our body can't act as it should. So
It's
when you
like it's
remove that stress,
unbelievable.
yeah, we can show a 92% reduction in stress that sugar, gluten, and lactose have on our body. So people who are allergic to stuff. I'm not fatally, but I'm severely allergic to seafood, honey, and avocado, shellfish, and all that. Where if I eat it, I suffer for about 8 hours. And if I put this food under one of those blocks like you were holding, if I put a crab under there, I can eat it no problem. So like that's what we're
What's
showing.
happening with that? How does it even work?
So the reason I even got myself into thinking that would work was I was having a conversation with the head scientist of Lila Quantum, Ian Mitchell, and he was explaining to me how, like, when you have basically you have these disruptive waveform patterns, and they're causing a disturbance, this chaos. And what happens when it's exposed to quantum energy is it just flatlines. So think of it as like a big when you're at the ocean and waves are crashing up above, underneath it's calm. It's like smoothing out the top part. So
Wow.
kind of like he always compared to like the Atlantic Ocean and then go to the Gulf, right? So on in the Panhandle, how calm everything is.
Mhm.
So that made me start thinking. I was like, well, if I can do that, again, they'll say everything is vibration and frequencies, right? So that made me start thinking is like, well, if it's calming all that down, maybe I could consume something that my body has a bad reaction to. Let me try it. So I tried it once and it was like, wow, okay, this worked. But I'm always super mindful and aware of the power of placebos. Again, this isn't a Harvard study on how I started things, but I started having my wife either put the food in the block or not without me knowing and then me consuming it. And every time it was right. If she put it in the block, I had no reaction. And if she didn't put it in the right block, I had a reaction. So there was enough to that where I started talking more about it. And then someone
Wow.
else brought up how, like, oh, I can't have lemon juice. And then they were able to put in a block and consume lemon juice with no problem. So that's how like all these studies that we have had kind of started was just like from getting feedback from people who were like, oh, I see that it does this now. And we're testing constantly. So yeah, we're always open to new studies. We're trying to find other ways. A lot of studies at the beginning started with doctors who, similar to, I was never a doctor at a level where I was trying to debunk it, but we have quite a few doctors that started our studies because they were wanting to debunk it.
Wow.
Beverly Rubik was like, "This is a scam," and we sent her products so she could test it out. And then she, at the end of her studies that she did, she basically her result was this is the most effective thing for the COVID vaccine I've ever seen because it's removing the clotting. So we have a
Wow.
lot of doctors who originally
And
started
is
that
it
way.
just like could you get that benefit from what I'm wearing around my neck right now?
That's a great question. Absolutely. We're so with
Wow.
the other stuff like the food charging, that would require a block for it to go within 5 or 6 minutes. These are a little weaker, so it might be like an hour. The same thing with our water structuring results, where under the block can be just a minute, but it needs to be about 25 minutes if you have a capsule where you can put the capsule next to the water. So in general, though, because the capsules have anywhere from a 3 to 6 foot space around us protecting us. So it's powerful, but the block is the most powerful. But again, all the other stuff I mentioned, if you have the actual capsules on, like all the EMF mitigation is there for you and the wound healing and all that.
Wow.
ATP production.
That is amazing. What about, you hear some people are like, put this necklace on, I couldn't sleep at night. Like,
Mhm.
how does that work? Like it created so much energy for them. Is it just because they are producing so much ATP that their body's like, "You don't need to sleep as much," or what? So they take it off at night, and they recommended that I do it as well, which I've been doing, but I have a block next to my bed. Like, I have the exact block I showed you earlier.
You got it everywhere. Yeah, well, so when I first got introduced to this stuff, I my heart rate went up really high instantly. I walk away, it'd go down, come back and go away. And we see that at conferences. We'll see
Wow.
that at conferences. People are like, what is this? Every time I walk by your booth, my heart rate increases. And it opens up for a nice conversation because they're not even sure what it is. And it's like, oh yeah. Really what's happening is it's putting you back again, like you're saying, the ATP production in a way, but it's like it's putting you back in your natural state. And you'll
Mm,
also find that you might detox because again,
wow.
your mitochondria is now able to focus on like, hey, me time as opposed to protection time. So
Uh-huh.
people sometimes will detox because you're allowing your body to, again, you're putting it in its natural state, so it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. It's able to do it, and the heart rate will go away for sure. It's when you're more like when you sleep with it, because sometimes people need to. On yours. Do you have the petite or the regular size? It's hard to tell, but either you have like in terms of your
I
capsule.
have well, I
So
think they
there's like
said
either 3 or 5 spheres in
there's
it. Yeah, so that's the petite, which I prefer size wise. Even though it's not, I mean, it's petite, but it's not petite like I would think because I'm 6'1" and 180 pounds, and petite is perfect for me. So it's just some people it's too strong and some people it's like some people one ball or one sphere is enough and they're like, oh, this is really intense for me, and then they just have to build up, so that will go away for sure. It's just creating like a filter with it. But I don't sleep with mine. I don't sleep with my necklace only because honestly if I toss and turn it wakes me up more, but I always we have a block next to our bed. But the only reason I don't sleep with the necklace is just the movement in the bed with the necklace on would keep me more awake.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that for sure. The problem I think that we're seeing is also with not just EMFs, but toxins in the environment, like biotoxins, environmental toxins. One of the things that I remember at an event that I went to, I was listening to a researcher say that the more EMFs you're exposed to, the more biotoxins build up in your body, and the more that environmental toxins in the forms of inert toxins and cadmium or mercury or lead or uranium also become even more reactive. The way that they liken it is if you're an electrician and you have done some sort of surgery where you have metal in your heart or in your knee or something like that, like the likelihood of them dying faster because of the electricity going into the metal of their body and
Yeah.
traveling throughout their body, they die a lot faster. So, on a micro particle level, heavy metals are a real thing, biotoxins are a real thing, parasites are a real thing, and they're saying, like, the more EMF you're exposed to, the more kind of an environment for parasites and biotoxins to grow
Yeah.
is. And so I know that might sound out there for some people, but what are your thoughts on that?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, that's very clear to me for many reasons. But one again is you have if you have these like stressors, like you're putting yourself in a fight or flight. Like the goal is to be in a parasympathetic as much as you can. And if you're in a
Yeah.
fight or flight, your body just doesn't function because it's constantly thinking it's either running away from a saber-toothed tiger or woolly mammoth or a bear, right? So
Mhm.
the basic stuff gets forgotten about because that's not important. It's not important to be detoxing if we're trying to run for our lives, right? And even though we're not running from our lives, we're putting our nervous system in a state that thinks it is running for its life. So when
Wow.
you have EMS, you're not going to be, it's a stressor. Your cortisol goes up, right? So then your glucose goes up. It's a whole
Yeah.
trickle down effect that's happening constantly. You age faster. There's a lot of things that could be
Yeah.
discussed with this, but you're not going to be detoxing because in the moment that's not important. So you're building up all those toxins and they're just loading up in there. And we can show, I believe it's like an 86% reduction in parasitic load being around quantum energy as well. So
86% reduction in parasitic load getting around quantum energy. That is amazing.
yeah.
Assume somebody has, like, say, a liver fluke, or they know they have a parasite in their gut. Could they take the panels off and sandwich their body for, like,
I would absolutely do that. My wife did that. My wife is always a good example because she wasn't into any of this stuff until we were
uh-huh.
introduced. And, she would eat sushi all day, every day, living in Marin, some really nice spots there. And she's like, I don't have parasites until we did a parasite.
Percent.
removal. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we did the turpentine one, which was extreme, but she had some like 5 foot things come out of her. Like, and she's
Wow.
like, now her whole life is like, in terms of like, yeah, there's parasites. I had this issues. This caused a lot of my anxiety. Like, removing those things instantly changed her mood
Wow.
and the anxiety levels that she was having. So for sure it's there. Sometimes people just have to experience it firsthand to become a believer, or at least see that there, be aware that there's something there. But I would
Wow.
put the block, because you can actually unscrew the poles on that, and you can just separate them and be in between them. Like you
Oh,
have with that one. So like you could take those and just put them so that you sandwich yourself in between them.
okay. And do you is there a way to, like, keep the discs together? Because I know that when you unscrew them, they're separate.
We have an accessory that you can purchase on the website that just makes it so it's just the blocks, like just the
Okay,
discs.
okay.
So it's not expensive at all, but you're buying these like shorter little screws and beams that make it so it's just those 3 plates on both sides. And you stick them in there, and the screws are just long enough. And then you can put those in between your head. You can just be in between them.
Oh,
It's a smart idea. It's a great idea to do that. So then you're not so limited to just that space in between there.
yeah, no, it's great. And okay, so assume you're lactose intolerant, you bring the milk home that you wanna drink, you put the discs, on either side. Does that now last for a week? Do you have to do that every time you eat it?
Personally, I would do it every time,
Okay.
because if you have the whole jug, right, and you charge it, when
Mhm.
you put it away, things happen to it still. It's exposed to other EMFs. It's exposed to, whether you have a smart refrigerator, think about things like that where it's being changed. And I'm going on that mindset of like concept of water, right? Water is my biggest passion. Revitalized water is a whole nother level of a topic, but you have to understand that liquid, all that stuff holds movement, and it's going to change. Same thing with structured water. If you take structured water, or use structured water and then put it next to a Wi Fi, it loses that structure in a negative way. Structure can be good or bad, but it's going to reverse it, right? So, same thing with any like milk. I would charge it right before you drink it
You know what?
constantly.
You could take this, and I could have my cups go into this every time I drink, like, so if I fill this up with water, I could put it inside, and then every time I drink it, I'm drinking more structured water, right, or charged water.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what we tested it with the Dr. Emoto. So, like, what the bleep, like, Dr. Emoto was famous for the research he did with water and having all the words, all that. So, we sent our blocks and our water bottle to the Emoto Institute in Japan, and we got tested there. And we are still right now the only product, our water bottle and our block. They reached out and they asked us if they could supply and sell our products at their institute, for because how impressed they were with the
Wow.
speed of crystalline water, like how it occurred
Wow.
being just under the block. And they've never done that with any other product of any company. And I've worked with
Wow.
other companies that send stuff there for them to test, and it's never been a thing. But with the Leela water bottle and the block, they're like, can we have these here to sell? Because we've never had something so fast from
So
basic nature.
real quick, let's pivot to water because it's a passion topic of mine. Dr. Lorenzen from UC Berkeley, studied water for years, and I can remember somebody giving me this stack of plastic water bottles, and I'm like, this is years ago. I'm like, I don't drink out of plastic, right? They're like, just taste the water. So I taste the water. I'm like, what the heck is in this water? Like it was thick, milky, like it tasted so much more pure than anything else. And it was like, whoa, I don't want to drink out of plastic. And that is also the best water I've ever had. So I was like, so that then I drank it for like the cases they sent. I drank it for a month or a week, and my HRV went up substantially, and my VO2 max went up, and my phase angle, that's the other thing, my phase angle went up. And so I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "This is really interesting." And my stamina when I was working out, like I was pumping more heavier weight. I'm like, "This is just water. It's water." So I'm like,
Mm.
I call up this guy Brian who gave it to me, and I'm like, "What is this? Like, what'd you guys do?" And he said, Dr. Lorenzen from University of Southern California, Berkeley, reverse engineered the water that now the US Olympic team is using and all this other stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, get me on a call with him. So I talked to this guy, and it was like in the 80s or 90s, his wife had deathly levels of, she was like about to die from fibromyalgia. None of the hospitals could help her. He took all the medications. He took all, and somebody said he was desperate at this point, and somebody said, "Go down to Mexico. There's a healing well in Mexico, a healing kind of like water well." And
Mhm.
so he went down there, and she drank the water, and she got well. And so then he's like, "Oh, well, I'll bring the water back." And so he brought like all this water back to California, and to San Diego, and all of a sudden, like but the water didn't keep. Like it was
It
like,
won't.
yeah, it was like unstructured. And so he spent like years studying how can we structure the water. And he was actually the one that taught Emoto, what like to get he got Emoto into the whole water research thing initially. And then the interesting thing that he started talking about is that water is printable. Like you can print information into water. And it like was so mind blowing to me because I'm like, look, this seems like very quantum now. Like it doesn't seem real, but like water actually holds information, like inclusion zone water, zero something water. You probably know the terms better than I do. But the reality is, and from what I know, and I'll let you share because you're probably way more knowledgeable than I am on it, that to create true structured water, the water needs to have like the perfect environments in nature. In nature, it's like you've got to have magnets, you've got to have the right mineral content, you have to have infrared, you have to have like access to the sun, you've got to like there's all these different things, right?
The life cycle of water is what I call that.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
a very specific life cycle of water, and most water that anyone drinks, I'd say 90+%, that's just a random, it's not a fact. It's, I'd say 9 out of 10 people don't drink water that has gone through a full life cycle. It's been reversed. It didn't get this, like you're saying, infrared. It's been stripped of minerals, stripped of everything. And the water
Wow.
we're getting out of our tap water, regardless of the 2000 legally allowed chemicals, that's not even the
And
concern. It's
pharmaceuticals.
yeah, there's a whole thing with that. And then filtering water, like that's just a, water is, it's a burden. And this might sound weird to people, but it's a burden to understand water.
It is.
Because when you understand water, the more you like, and this is as cheesy as it gets, but water is my passion. Out of everything I do, it is my obsession. And I can tell you that the more we learn about the water, the more we're like, we don't know anything about water. Water is a living conscious. It changes like our heartbeat, which is what you want. So when you have people that claim to keep structured water as it is, you don't want that. You don't want water to stay the same. You want it to change. It has a mood. Driving, what happened with him is when you drive that water, it's going
Mm,
through vibrations of the road. It's hearing the honking. It's listening to music with you. It's in the energy, everything that's going on. The water is changing its state than what it was. And that's why you also want to drink the water pretty fast compared to where you're at. But listening, they can show that having water next to your heart, like for just 20 minutes, will change the structure. And structure, that's another whole thing of unethical marketing in the alternative health world, because structuring on a scientific level is really just meaning, oh, we're changing the tension and the texture of the water. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. It could be a bad
mhm.
thing, right? So when they say, oh, structured water, like structured water, I don't even prefer, I only use the word structured water because most people know that. But it's really revitalized water is what you want, like actual stream, like revitalized living water. And like you're saying before, I know I interrupted you about the life cycle, but you know,
Yeah, it's great.
the way the water is interacting is, it's you're saying magnets, right? So it's like in a real life setting, it's going through a river and it's bouncing off of a rock, of the quartz of a crystal. It's being energized. It's going vortex. It's being just invigorated and alive. And
Wow.
then that's why you get these structuring devices. It depends on how they're actually
I,
adjusting the water, if they really work or not. But
yeah, I've
which
got
there's plenty of companies.
the ohm, OM or OHU,
OHM.
like on my house that's a whole house. It's huge. It was like 10 grand or something like that. But it like apparently restructures all the water going into your house. But like, let's tell us, Leela Quantum Tech is what we were talking about before. So like if you guys are interested, please go to Leela Quantum Tech and just, get some of this technology. bare minimum, get the petite,
Yeah, absolutely. Heal 360 is it's
oh,
the number one
360.
most popular item we have.
Yeah,
And it's a
amazing.
great place to start for an investment of like
Yeah.
understanding and feeling the benefits of quantum energy.
And then if you want to go geeky with me, like, get the portable that you can throw in your bag for travel, get the what is it called? The blocks, the 3 blocks of
Yeah, our yeah, that's the Infinity, the
yeah,
Infinity
the
one.
Infinity
We have
is
water bottles that we can talk, water bottles, like we're just talking about all the things with water. Like putting your water into our water bottles for like 20 minutes will completely change it.
are your water bottles glass or are they plastic or what are they?
They're stainless steel.
Oh, good. Stainless steel. I didn't even know you guys. I didn't see that. Is this new?
No, we have like one that has like a bamboo outside. The inside is stainless steel, and then we have one that's strictly just stainless steel. There's 24 ounces of those, and then they're infused with different frequencies as well. So not just the quantum energy; it also has a bunch of different frequencies
Wow.
that are
So
added to it.
that
That
was my next question is where do you get like how do you restructure water or revitalize water is the better term and then how can you reverse engineer the life cycle of water where it's bouncing off quartz and being pulled in different directions and going through vortexes and getting remineralized and all the other things because I mean
yeah,
I've
that's
got a restructuring unit for my house. I've got a filtration unit that's carbon that for water going into the house. So the shower gets the fluoride and all the other stuff.
yeah.
And then I've got essentially a reverse osmosis and then a remineralization filter. So then I take it out and then there's these like water restructuring wands that you can buy from Vita.
And a lima.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and so I stir my water, and I taste the difference, but you were saying that, like, water that is revitalized communicates the water that's not to help it, become
An
revitalized?
expense. Yeah, yeah, it's really I mean, water is people also think water's job is to hydrate us, and it is absolutely not. Water does not hydrate us. Water's job is a bridge of communication. What water does is it brings stuff to your cells to hydrate you. So what's in the water is important. It's the minerals that are bringing you to hydrate you, right? Water does its job. It brings it through the cells, passes them along, and now you have the hydration. But water, and for anyone who questions that, go drink reverse osmosis. Go drink Dasani water for 2 days, and you'll feel like you never drank any water. Like it's all reverse osmosis, right? And so reverse osmosis water needs to be remineralized because
Yeah.
otherwise you're not going to be hydrated. So drink Dasani water for a few days, and you'll be dehydrated, and
Dude, I
that's
feel
reverse osmosis,
dehydrated
right?
on a Delta
Yeah,
flight, and I didn't bring my water bottle, or they dumped it out during security or whatever, and then I'm forced to drink the Dasani. I'm like, man, I pee it out. First of all, it just goes right through my system, and I feel dehydrated.
I personally, I treat it's the same way as like when you're, for me at least, when I'm in an area where there's a lot of bad food, I'd rather fast and just go without the food. I'll do the same thing with the water. I won't drink Dasani because multiple reasons. That is
Wow.
plastic. That's plastic bottles that with the, so for example, you're going to go into that, right? So structured water, like it doesn't the plastic, all the things about water that we create fear about, if the water is revitalized, none of that matters. Now, Dasani is reverse osmosis. It's been stressed. It's been through 90-degree angle, high pressure, right? So it is just sitting there traumatized water, basically. And then, so now you have it in a plastic and it's reaching for things. So it grabs and it can absorb it into the water. So
Traumatized
when
water, that's good. I'm gonna use
well, that's
that.
really what it is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's sitting
Yeah.
there like water is a social creature and it wants to be connected, right? So if you pour just a little bit of structured or revitalized water into a larger container, it actually extends it out and it kind
Wow.
of takes over, right?
So
So with
so
actual structured water, this is really important real fast. But with the structured water, we can show this. Victor Schauberger proved this that when you have revitalized water, so for example, in Yosemite, I can drink water out of a creek and I won't get sick. And I'm not saying everyone do this, but if you can actually revitalize water from Mexico, if you have like a revitalizer and you won't get sick because water is also intelligent. So it can capsulate and cover the toxins. That includes fluoride, chlorine, without, similar to how quantum energy will keep the things there but neutralize them. Real revitalized water will do that while you drink it. So it actually
Wow.
will encapsulate. So you're not absorbing the fluoride, you're not absorbing the chlorine, even though it is still in the water. It knows it doesn't have an absorber, so you pee it out. That can be shown also in a more individual experiment. Is if you get a, like, so for your structured water, like for your shower, let's say it didn't have a filtration system, but we can get like a shower head that just revitalizes the water. And you could have, like, before you'd smell all the chlorine. Now you won't smell any of the chlorine. While it's still in the water, it's being encapsulated. And so while you're actually taking the shower, you won't smell the chlorine even though it's there. So that's another,
Wow.
that's why the you'll see a lot of these more, I don't know what you want to call them, but more knowledgeable people in the water world. And when you talk to them, they're like, I don't care about fluoride. As long as my water is revitalized, like, not much of an issue.
Wow.
I don't care if it's in plastic, because if it's
Really?
revitalized, it doesn't matter. And that can be kind of a mind shift for us who sit here. For me, I was very lucky. My water mentor is John Butts. He unfortunately passed away 2 years ago, but hands down the global leading expert in water. He educated everyone. Veda, Austin, Victor, all these people he worked with and mentored them, taught them how to do things. And I got to spend a lot of time with him every day,
Wow.
hours learning about water. And like, so, but I would, beforehand, I thought I knew a lot about water until I got to spend so much time with John. And he was like, Man, you worry too much. Like, you don't, like, it doesn't need to be filtered. It's not as, it is important in a way for him. It was, if you should only really, it should only, I guess that's might be the right thing, but might not be the right thing to say. But the filtration comes for, like, a preference of flavor. And that's the key point, like, if you're doing it right, because if it is actually truly revitalized, all the other things that are in that water are a problem. And, he was really, and I mean this to, I don't want you to rethink your life on how you have that set up, but like reverse osmosis water, like, people don't ever talk about, and I'm also not a fear monger, but like, RO is really bad for the environment. And I have an RO system. So I'm not saying this in a judgmental way at all, because it's by choice. But if you think about it, you say you take a gallon of water and it's reverse osmosis, it brings out 3/4 of a gallon. Now you have this quarter a gallon of filtered, or of the unfiltered, right? And all that is condensed, highly concentrated chemicals that it's stripped out. And what do we do with
Wow.
that water? We either pour it down the sink, and now it goes in the municipal system. And now the municipal system has to add additional chemicals to counter all that high concentration of chemicals we just put back into the water, or it dumps it into the dirt. It depends on what kind of system you have, and some people don't think
Wow.
about that. None of that stuff is recyclable. But the concern really is if you have an RO system and you dump it down the drain, the extra part that you want to throw away, it's now back in the public water, and the city itself has to dump more neutralizing chemicals to neutralize everything you just put in there.
Oh
So,
my God.
and I say that with an RO system. So I'm not saying that in any way of a judgy
So
way,
there's
because
in
I,
an RO system, there's two lines. One is the filtered, and then the other one just drains into
yeah,
the
that just depends on where you have it drained to, right? Like, if it is drained
interest.
in, just don't have it drain into a garden.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
um,
interesting.
but some
Wait, wait,
people
wait,
have it drain into the dirt, or they drains back into the sewage system.
give us the life cycle of water remineralization, or excuse me, revitalization of water. How do you do that? Like, get from front to back. Like, I'm curious for myself. I feel like I've done pretty good, but like I want to know what else I can do.
Yeah, and that goes in, like, we can go into like deuterium depleted water, right? Because that's another end of it, is if you are removing that, you're removing the part of the life cycle that was purpose of the water.
Which by the way, people are like, the only water you should drink to get rid of all the toxins is distilled water. But people
Yeah.
like yourself, I would say, hey, look, you're drinking dead water and not revitalized water.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to still revitalize it. The revitalizing should be the very end. So, like, because if you filter and then revitalize and filter again, you've lost that structure, the livening, because it's been just highly pressurized and stressed.
How do you
Um,
revitalize though?
Well, so you can do multiple things. One thing that helps, even though you're not fully revitalizing it, is to re-add the minerals. So Celtic sea salt is ideal for most people, but a lot of a lot of systems, if you purchase them, you can get a revitalizer that's at the end of the whole system. I mean, you can get one for like, you could get a under the sink system. So even though you have a whole house system, this filtration, you can put I would focus more so like on the drinking water for the structure part. And you can get like under sink revitalizers.
What's
And
a good brand?
well, Natural Action. So there's three good brands, I would say. Natural Action, and then you have Greenfield Water, which is another good one, and then like the Ohm, like you talked about, because those actually revitalize the water because it runs through like double helix vortex, Shanghai quartz, precious rare earth minerals, all get exposed to the water right before it comes out of the faucet for you.
Freaking A. I have another ohm filter that I'm not using because I didn't know to use it after it went through the RO. Because
Yeah,
I have a remineralization thing, but then you would then put it through Natural Action, Greenfield water, or the
one of those.
ohm
Yeah, those are all
again.
those. Yeah, those three are like honestly, they're the top. Like those are the ones that do it right, and it's just preference of what you want to see what it looks like. Those the under the sink systems can take 5 minutes to install. Like
So
anyone, they're just a plug and play. They're not like you don't need to have a professional plumber or anything. They just
got it.
plug right in between the two hoses, and it runs through the whole system.
Out of all of them, you'd say Natural Action is the best.
I like Natural Action. That's where John Butts is. And John Butts passed away from ketoacidosis, unfortunately, 2 years ago. But that was his passion project was Natural Action. So prices are lower. Everything that his focus on is legitimate.
Wow.
And
And then
there
anything
he's the one that
else?
did the actual studies.
Minerals,
Well,
revitalizer, and then anything else?
that's really all you need.
And then you need
Um,
the quantum, right? The Leela, like water
Well,
bottle?
yeah, like when especially when you're leaving, like, 'cause that will add so that has, like, primal healing, it has primal memory, different things, again, for the original life cycle of water, it gets inputted back into, like, our water bottles, specifically the water bottles. They have frequencies that are meant for that. So it's actually reinserting, whether it's re-downloading or uploading the primal memories into it. It has lots of other frequencies added to it as well, but that's what I will put my water in when I leave the house.
Okay, got it. Interesting. I see it. I see the water bottle. Or do
Yeah, we
I?
have 2 different versions. There's 2 versions, like one that looks like it's a bamboo outside, I think the
Yeah, which
store,
one do you
and then we
like
have
better? The Heal
the stainless
360?
steel. Yeah, I
Yeah?
like the Heel 360.
Okay, great. Alright, well, where can they go to get this?
Yeah, Leela Quantum, so, it's leelaq.com is the best way. Social media is Leela Quantum, and, I'm also on the social media, so if you have any questions, anything on there, I'm the one that's answering those questions.
Great.
But leelaq.com is probably the best route, and you can go on there and find all the things, all of our products.
Amazing. That's great. Well, hey, Todd, you've been so fun to talk about, with, and I think I should have you back on just to talk water because I think we could, spend as much time talking about EMFs as we did talking about water.
Yeah,
Like
definitely. There's equal
maybe
amounts of
maybe
information.
maybe a series, like, a series of 10 podcast episodes that are all an hour long. Just
Well, that's what I
like,
love doing. I love taking all these like because there's so much overwhelming information. And again, I keep using the word. There's a lot of unethical marketing, a lot of
yeah,
unrealistic claims that are made, and I like to really go through and test everything and say like these are legitimate. These are the ones to focus on. With lots of subjects in this. I've been in this space for over 15 years, always trying to dig deep into all the cool stuff that's available. And then
yeah,
because everything is gauged off of my like 74-year-old mom or my 13-year-old twins, where like I want them to be able to understand this stuff. And
yeah.
if it goes over our heads, it's useless. So even people who are
You
actively trying to make good decisions, it's still a challenge for them. So I like to go
you
in there and try to simplify things.
you've done a great job, Todd, and I'm gonna be most likely building a longevity resort in Napa, and so I know you're close to Napa, so we'll have to. Hopefully, we'll be able to spend more time together.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Todd, thank you so much. Where can they follow you on Instagram or Facebook or X?
Yeah, my personal Instagram is that odd Todd.
That Todd, I love it. I love it. Well, that odd Todd, thank you. I appreciate you. Go ahead, follow Todd. and go to Lila Quantum Tech if you want a lot of the technology that we're talking about on today's podcast episode. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to the Longevity Leaders Podcast. Our Longevity Leaders community is on mission to transform 100 million lives by 2040. If you enjoyed this show, please share this with somebody that you know, especially another doctor or physician, but also click that follow button. Until next time, stay strong and live long.